The Galactic Council, an organization made up of the most powerful races in the galaxy, sat comfortably at the top of the universe's hierarchy. They controlled trade, peace, and war across countless planets, ruling with an iron fist. For centuries, they had maintained this order, confident that their technological superiority and their powerful fleets would keep any rebellion in check. Earth, a small, barely noticeable planet in the outer reaches of space, was seen by the Galactic Council as nothing more than a backwater world. The humans had been quiet, isolated for years, and the Council had forgotten them, thinking them too primitive to pose any kind of threat. Earth's technology was considered outdated, its armies weak, and its resources insignificant in the grand scheme of the universe. But unknown to the Galactic Council, something was stirring deep within the heart of Earth. No one had noticed the slow, steady rise of a force that would soon challenge everything the Council had worked to maintain. The humans, underestimated for so long, had begun to prepare in silence. On Earth, a group of brilliant scientists and military leaders had uncovered an ancient weapon buried deep beneath the surface. The weapon was not something that could be easily understood by modern minds. It had been hidden for centuries, lost to time and war, waiting for the right moment to resurface. No one on Earth had realized the full extent of its power, until now. The weapon was a massive fleet of warships, each one capable of decimating an entire fleet of advanced ships in one strike. These ships were not built by humans, they were of a forgotten origin, a race long wiped out by the galaxy's dominant forces. The technology was far ahead of anything the Galactic Council had ever encountered. The Council had no idea what was coming. While Earth's leaders were still unaware of the true power at their disposal, the first signs of the storm had already begun. As the weapons of the past slowly powered up, the world's best military strategists worked tirelessly to harness the ancient technology. Every test, every simulation, proved one thing: Earth had the potential to launch a devastating counterattack, one that could take down even the mightiest of the Council's fleets. But still, the galaxy remained oblivious. The Galactic Council continued their meetings, discussing trade routes, planetary politics, and the suppression of rebellious races. They laughed at the idea of Earth rising up. The humans had always been at the edge of galactic space, unimportant and insignificant. The Council felt no need to worry about a race that had barely advanced beyond their primitive past. The Council's arrogance became their greatest weakness. They underestimated Earth's potential because they couldn't imagine the possibility of humanity rising from nothing to challenge them. They mocked Earth's strength, thinking the humans were too small, too scattered, and too weak to ever pose a real threat. But deep within the hidden military bases across Earth, preparations continued. A countdown had started. With each passing day, the warships powered up, their engines humming to life, their weapon systems activated. And with each passing day, the humans grew more confident that the time had come to make their move. Earth's forces were not many, but they didn't need to be. They had the advantage of surprise. The Council had no idea that Earth had already developed a weapon capable of matching, if not surpassing, their own advanced fleets. The warships weren't just machines, they were symbols of humanity's resilience. They had been built with a purpose, one that would soon be revealed to the entire galaxy. The humans were not prepared to take on the entire galaxy, but they were ready to strike when the time came. They would make their presence known, and the Galactic Council would no longer be able to ignore them. Earth's counterattack was coming, and it would be ruthless, swift, and devastating. As the warships slowly gathered in the dark depths of Earth's oceans, the first wave of Earth's fury was about to be unleashed. The calm before the storm was ending, and the galaxy would soon feel the consequences of underestimating humanity. The first sign of what was to come would soon be felt. The Galactic Council's reign was about to be shattered. And Earth, once a forgotten planet on the edge of the galaxy, was ready to prove its strength. No one could have predicted the devastation that would follow. This was just the beginning. Deep beneath Earth's oceans, where the world's greatest military minds believed no one could reach, the forgotten warships of an ancient civilization slowly began to stir. These ships, unlike anything humanity had ever seen, were not built by modern hands. Their design was alien, their technology far beyond Earth's current capabilities. They were the last remnants of a species long since wiped out by the very forces that now ruled the galaxy. The warships had been buried for centuries, hidden away to ensure that no one would ever discover their devastating power. As the humans gathered at their secret military bases, they worked tirelessly to unlock the secrets of these machines. They had no idea where the ships came from, but they understood one thing: these ships were Earth's key to survival, to fighting back against the overwhelming power of the Galactic Council. The work was painstaking, slow, and full of risks. The technology was too advanced for most to comprehend, but Earth's brightest minds came together, determined to understand it. They studied every part of the warships, their sleek, metallic surfaces, their powerful engines, and their highly advanced weaponry that seemed to defy all known laws of science. The ships were not just weapons, they were symbols of a power humanity could barely grasp. At first, the tests were a disaster. The ships would not start. Their systems were damaged by years of disuse, their technology alien and seemingly incompatible with modern equipment. But then, a breakthrough came. A group of engineers, working day and night, managed to activate the first of the warships. As the massive engines roared to life, the shock waves could be felt miles away. The ship, like a slumbering giant, stretched and awakened from its centuries-long nap. The first test was a success. But it was only the beginning. Soon after, more warships were revived, each one more powerful than the last. As their systems powered up, the humans began to realize the true scale of their discovery. These ships were not just advanced, they were nearly indestructible. Their weapons could obliterate fleets in an instant. Their shields could withstand even the most powerful attacks the galaxy had ever seen. And Earth had found them, hidden away beneath their oceans, forgotten by time. But the awakening of these warships didn't go unnoticed. There were whispers among the galaxy's military leaders, rumors of strange energy readings emanating from Earth. The Galactic Council had never paid much attention to the distant, insignificant planet, but now, something was happening that they couldn't explain. Ships were being launched from Earth, warships no one had seen before. And the signals they emitted were unlike anything the Council's scientists had encountered. Still, the Council brushed it off, dismissing it as a fluke. They had more important matters to deal with, after all. The galaxy's peace was still intact, and the Council's fleets were unmatched. Earth was still too far behind, too insignificant to pose any real threat. But the Council's arrogance would be their undoing. As the warships continued to awaken, the human engineers worked on the next phase, training crews, refining the ship's weapons systems, and preparing them for battle. But the humans knew the time to strike was coming. Soon, their efforts would not be enough to keep the Council from noticing them. The world had only one chance to surprise the galaxy, and they were going to take it. The Galactic Council, still blind to Earth's power, had no idea what was headed their way. Their fleets were powerful, their weapons devastating, but they had no defense against the ancient power humanity had just unlocked. Earth had a secret, a weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The calm that had settled over the galaxy for so long was about to be shattered. Earth's warships, once dormant and forgotten, were now ready to strike. The quiet planet at the edge of the galaxy was preparing for a war the Council never saw coming. And as Earth's fleets took to the stars, the first signs of the storm began to show. The Council's reign was about to be challenged in a way they could never have predicted. Earth had awakened, and nothing would ever be the same again. The silence of space was broken by the sudden, unprovoked strike from Earth. Without warning, the first wave of warships emerged from the deep void of Earth's atmosphere, their massive forms cutting through space with terrifying precision. The ships, now fully operational, loomed large, silent behemoths with weaponry capable of turning entire fleets to dust. Their arrival sent a shockwave through the galaxy, but it wasn't the force of the ships that startled the Galactic Council, it was their speed and sheer power. The Galactic Council had just received the first transmission from Earth. The message was simple, yet chilling: this is humanity's warning. You've underestimated us. Prepare for the consequences. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council felt fear. Their carefully crafted peace, their secure dominance across the galaxy, was now being threatened by a planet they had written off as nothing more than a forgotten relic. The leaders of the Council, once confident in their unquestionable superiority, now found themselves scrambling to make sense of this unprecedented threat. How could Earth, a species they had so easily dismissed, possess such power? And why had they never noticed the buildup of this force? The first strike came without hesitation. The warships, tens of thousands of them, launched devastating beams of energy toward the Council's outer defense stations. In mere seconds, the stations were reduced to floating debris, their systems frying under the sheer power of Earth's surprise weapons. The Galactic Council had always believed their technology to be the pinnacle of military advancement, but Earth's warships proved otherwise. The weapons they unleashed were not only advanced, they were beyond comprehension. Across the galaxy, other systems watched in horror as Earth's fleet decimated the Council's outer defenses. This was no mere skirmish. Earth was sending a message, a bold declaration that their time had come, and they would no longer stand idly by. In the Council's war rooms, chaos broke out. The once calm and calculated leaders now rushed to assess the damage. The Federation's security was compromised. Entire fleets had been wiped out in moments, and no one had any answers. The Council had never prepared for this kind of threat, never imagined that Earth could rise from the ashes of its isolation and challenge the core of galactic rule. "We need to respond, now," one of the high-ranking officers shouted, panic creeping into his voice. But there was no clear answer. How could they retaliate when they were blindsided by an enemy they had long forgotten? The next phase of the assault was just as brutal. Earth's warships moved relentlessly forward, their advanced weapons systems obliterating enemy ships in a series of quick, calculated strikes. The Galactic Council's most elite fleets were dispatched to combat this new threat, but they were met with swift destruction. Earth had not just awakened from its long slumber, it had prepared for this moment for centuries, and now, the galaxy was feeling the weight of that preparation. Meanwhile, on Earth, the world watched in awe and fear. News outlets reported on the growing conflict as Earth's forces moved through space, a force of nature too powerful to be stopped. Governments across the planet worked together to coordinate military efforts, but there was little doubt left in anyone's mind, the Council, once untouchable, was now in grave danger. Humanity had risen, and no one knew how far they would go to protect their world. Back in the Council's command center, the pressure was mounting. The once unified leaders were now divided, some calling for immediate retaliation, others demanding a more cautious approach. They couldn't afford to underestimate Earth any longer. As the first wave of strikes continued, the realization hit, Earth wasn't just fighting for survival, it was fighting for its place in the galaxy. The Galactic Council's power was beginning to crumble. Their response, clumsy and uncoordinated, only made things worse. Earth's military might was more organized, more disciplined, and more prepared than they had ever imagined. Every attack they launched was countered with brutal efficiency. The Council's most advanced warships, ships they had once believed to be invincible, were now struggling to fend off the relentless assault. Each day, Earth's fleets moved deeper into Council-controlled space, capturing key military outposts, disrupting supply lines, and leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. The galaxy, once calm and steady under the rule of the Galactic Council, now teetered on the edge of chaos. As the first strike unfolded, the Council leaders had no choice but to watch in horror as their grip on the galaxy slipped away, piece by piece. The message Earth had sent was clear. They were no longer the forgotten planet. They were a force to be reckoned with. And they would not stop until they had taken their place among the stars. As Earth's counterattack continued, the Galactic Council's grip on the galaxy began to slip. The initial shock of the first wave had barely subsided when Earth's warships launched a second, more devastating assault. This time, the ships didn't just target outer defenses, they began dismantling the heart of the Galactic Council's power. The once feared fleet of the Galactic Council, composed of hundreds of elite warships, found itself outmatched, outgunned, and outmaneuvered by Earth's unexpected force. The Council's finest ships, their pride and joy, were no match for the advanced technology Earth had unearthed from the ancient warships. The lasers, missiles, and energy blasts fired by Earth's fleet were devastatingly efficient, cutting through shields and armor like paper. Desperation gripped the Council leaders. They had always believed that their military dominance was untouchable, that their technological supremacy made them invincible. But now, they were faced with a foe they couldn't even comprehend. A species they had long ignored had risen, and the consequences were clear: the Galactic Council was losing. In war rooms scattered across the galaxy, heated debates broke out. Some council leaders, realizing the full scope of Earth's military strength, urged for a retreat. They wanted to regroup and come up with a new strategy, but the panic in their voices was undeniable. Others, particularly the more stubborn factions, pushed for retaliation. But no plan seemed to work. Every counterattack was met with a well-coordinated defense that the Council had never expected. Earth's forces were far more disciplined and organized than they had ever imagined. Even the Council's elite generals, known for their genius in battle, struggled to come up with a solution. They had always defeated their enemies through superior firepower, overwhelming numbers, and technological advancements. Yet, Earth had something different. They had a burning desire to protect their home, a fierce will to survive, and technology that leveled the playing field in ways the Council could never predict. In an act of desperation, the Council called upon their oldest and most powerful allies, races that had long pledged loyalty to the Council in exchange for protection and resources. These allies, a collection of formidable species, had vast fleets of their own and were expected to turn the tide of battle in favor of the Council. But Earth was ready. The moment the Allied fleets arrived, they were met with an unexpected response. Earth had already infiltrated and sabotaged key communication networks, turning the Allies' ships against them. The Allies' own weapon systems malfunctioned, causing confusion and chaos within their ranks. Earth had anticipated this move and made sure that even the galaxy's strongest allies were vulnerable. The Galactic Council's fleets, now scattered and disorganized, found themselves under constant assault. Earth's warships, relentless in their pursuit, tore through the ranks of the Council's forces, dismantling their most powerful ships with cold precision. The Council's massive battle stations, once the pride of their empire, were now falling one by one. It became clear that this was no longer a simple rebellion, this was a full-scale war, a war that Earth was determined to win. As the battle raged on, more and more systems in the galaxy began to question the Council's ability to maintain control. Civilian ships once under the Council's protection now sought refuge on Earth's warships, declaring their allegiance to the homeworld. Rebellions erupted across the galaxy, sparked by the once impossible idea that humanity could actually defeat the most powerful empire the stars had ever known. Back on Earth, a sense of unity gripped the people. Governments, once divided by their own petty squabbles, now worked together seamlessly. The human race, united by the threat of extinction, had become an unstoppable force. As Earth's warships continued their advance, the galaxy was beginning to realize that the status quo was no longer an option. The tide was turning. The Galactic Council, once the undisputed ruler of the stars, now found itself fighting not just for power, but for its very survival. The battle was far from over, but the outcome was becoming clear: Earth would no longer be a footnote in galactic history. It would take its place at the center, and no force in the galaxy would be able to stop it. The question was no longer whether Earth could win, but how far they would push the fight, and how much of the galaxy would be left standing when they were done. The galaxy trembled as Earth's forces advanced relentlessly, breaking through the Galactic Council's defenses like a hammer crushing glass. With each passing day, the Council's control over the galaxy grew weaker. The once proud fleets, once regarded as the epitome of power, were now scattered, broken, and scrambling for survival. The warships that Earth had unearthed were not just weapons, they were a symbol of humanity's unyielding spirit and resilience. And with each victory, Earth's message became clearer: they would not be ignored anymore. The Galactic Council, now cornered, convened for what was to be their final attempt at retaliation. The leaders of the council, their once unified voices now strained and full of fear, debated desperately. They had been pushed to the edge, their once unquestionable dominance all but destroyed. Yet, their arrogance, long instilled in them, refused to let them surrender. "We cannot let this stand," one of the high-ranking council members shouted, his voice trembling with anger and fear. "If we fall, the entire galaxy will crumble. We must retaliate. We must show them what we're capable of." The most powerful fleet in the council's arsenal was now mobilized, their last, desperate weapon. An armada of warships that could wipe out entire systems with a single command. But Earth, ever prepared, was ready for this final move. They knew the Council's desperation would lead them here, and they had already accounted for it. As the Galactic Council's fleet made its way toward Earth's solar system, Earth's warships silently positioned themselves in the dark reaches of space. The battle was about to reach its most crucial stage. The two forces would clash one final time. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Council's ships, massive and formidable, surged forward, firing their most powerful weapons at Earth's fleet. But Earth's warships were faster, more agile, and, most importantly, more advanced. The Council's weapons systems could not penetrate the shields of Earth's ships, and their attacks were rendered useless against the technological superiority of Earth's fleet. It was not just about firepower anymore, it was about strategy, and Earth had the advantage. The Council's fleet, once so proud, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Earth's ships struck with surgical precision, targeting the most vulnerable points in the Council's defenses. The first wave of Council warships was obliterated before they even had a chance to retaliate. As the battle raged, Earth's warships moved relentlessly forward, cutting through the remaining Council fleets. The final blow came when Earth's flagship, a massive warship unlike any the galaxy had ever seen, fired its most devastating weapon, a pulse that disrupted the Council's entire fleet in a single shot. The shockwave sent the remaining Council warships into disarray, and they were quickly picked off, one by one. The last of the Galactic Council's leaders, once so full of pride and confidence, watched helplessly as their empire crumbled before them. Their attempts at diplomacy, their threats, their superior technology, it all meant nothing now. Earth had proven that no power, no matter how great, could withstand the will of a determined species. The message was clear. Humanity was not just a force to be reckoned with, they were the new rulers of the galaxy. As the final remnants of the Council's fleet were destroyed, Earth's forces stood victorious. The once great empire had fallen, and humanity had risen from the ashes. The galaxy, once controlled by the Council's iron grip, was now free. And Earth, the planet that had once been ignored, was now the most powerful force in the galaxy. But this victory was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there were still many challenges ahead. The human race had shown that they could face the most insurmountable odds and come out on top. And as Earth's warships returned to their home planet, the question on everyone's mind was, what would humanity do next? Would they conquer the galaxy, or would they seek peace? Would they rebuild the broken systems left in the wake of their war, or would they establish a new order, one in which Earth held the reins of power? The galaxy was at a crossroads, and humanity had just become its new leaders. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear, Earth had become a force that no one would dare underestimate again.